Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
And let's talk about passports, because there is a school of thought abroad. I must start saying abroad, actually. It's going to change its meaning soon, isn't it, in Brexit Britain? There's a school of thought which suggests that the failure of people, I think I can add like me here without having to file this under opinion as opposed to fact, that the colour of my passport is utterly immaterial to me, okay? What matters to me about my passport is A, that I can find it, which has been a course of never-ending stress to me. I must have told you the story about the night I was due to go on holiday and I didn't have anything. I mean, everything was read up. It's probably not the most interesting element of this entire discussion, I grant you. The second most important thing about my passport is that I can join the fastest queue when I get to customs. This is one of the most annoying things about America, and the way that American people just glide past you as though on wheels. In fact, so many of them are obese, quite a lot of them are on wheels. But they glide past you in the customs queue as you have to stand there waiting to get let into a country in which you're prepared to spend more money than you can afford on lots of things you don't really need. European Union passport, when you're visiting European Union, quite helpful, because you go through that aisle that says EU nationals this way, everyone else that way, and the queue that way is always bigger than the queue this way. So you wave it through into Greece, you hop off the channel. Does anyone call it the channel still? I think we should bring back the channel next, after pounds and ounces, hanging, and Alf Garnett. What else does a passport give you? I mean, safety. Her Britannic Majesty, of course, demands that you receive the support that you need from her outposts in foreign countries. That's not going to change. And at the age of 45, I have never had a passport that isn't burgundy. I was on my dad's as a kid. Do you remember that? It'd be pictures of the kids in the back of the big passport. But I've never, I don't think, would I ever have had one? And I used to use those little foldy cardboard ones. Do you remember them? You could get them from the post office pretty much over the counter. Do you remember? Literally, that's all I had until I was a proper grown-up. You'd just go into the post office with some passport photos. I think you had to have it signed by a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, and you could just get it back that day. I'm not going mad, am I? Guess what colour that one was? You might want to sit down for this. I think it was beige. So I travelled at the age of 10 to Mallorca with my mate Justin and his mum to stay in their apartment on a beige passport. It's a miracle I wasn't hung for treason. Seriously, my passport was beige in 1983. Please don't tell anybody this. I'm too ashamed to admit it. And the idea that I would somehow have felt less British or less proud, or my identity had been in some way compromised because I was travelling on a beige passport as an 11-year-old, as a 10-year-old, is laughable, right? When did I go abroad after that, without mum and dad? Yeah, it wouldn't be until I started seeing a Greek girl at college, I don't think. I don't think I went abroad without my mum and dad, apart from that one trip to Mallorca as a 10 or 11-year-old. And then I'm pretty sure I didn't get a proper passport in the first year. When did they abolish the little post office temporary passports, over-the-counter passports? Anyway, the point I'm making is I've travelled on 3 different types of passports. I've travelled as a dependent on my dad's passport, which would have been black or navy blue back in the day. I can't even say for certain whether it is black or navy blue. I looked at the pictures today. I think Nick said the same thing earlier. Is it navy blue or black? Because it really, really matters. And then at 94, they were phased out, so I would have done. Yeah, the first couple of times I went to Greece, I would have been travelling on a temporary passport. They lasted a year. They were great, but they were beige. So they should not really have let me back into the country, I have to say. And then I travelled on that one, so that would be the second passport I travelled on. First of all on my dad's, then on a temporary one for about, be looking at from about 1982 to about 9, so 12 years travelling on a temporary one. Then I had to get a grown-up one, which I travel on now. And I'm just trying, because obviously the whole point, isn't it, that you're supposed to be able to take a joke? This is what they keep telling me. You've got to be able to take a joke. If I find it slightly funny at this stage that you care about the colour of your passport, don't be offended. I love you. I love you deeply. But it is, to me, quite amusing. So I kind of want to know why I shouldn't find it funny. And one of the answers is because you don't get it, do you? You don't understand the importance of identity. And I kind of do. Well, not kind of, I completely do. I just am so supremely confident in my own identity that I can't understand how anybody's could be compromised by the colour of their passport. I know exactly who I am, exactly where I'm from, and exactly what I stand for. If you change the colour of my passport, none of that is going to change. I'm supremely confident in, forgive me if you don't like this, the superiority of some aspects of my culture. I know my way around British culture in a way that makes me realise how little of it I know. Every time you think you've got your head around something in the world of art or literature, something truly cultural, you realise, as I think Aristotle observed, the only wise man is the man who knows how little he knows. But I'm supremely confident in my culture. I'm supremely confident in my identity. I cannot conceive of circumstances in which changing the colour of my passport would change the way I feel about my country. Okay? And I do find it slightly funny, but funny's better than scary. Most of the stuff I can't get my head around at the moment is quite scary. At least this is funny for now. So I'm going to give you the power for the next sort of half an hour or so. And again, we managed it in the last hour, pretty much, not to have any arguments. Normal service will be resumed tomorrow, by the way, I imagine. But on this one, you and I are completely at odds. A significant number of people listening to this programme will, like me, not want to insult you or make you feel bad, but we don't understand why the colour of the passport matters. Neither do we understand, until we start thinking about it, why the £500 million figure has been allowed to get halfway around the world before the truth has got his trousers on. Have you seen this? £500 million is what it will cost. So that number, as I understand it, and I don't know if there is such a thing as a passport expert out there, but if there is and you're listening, you must correct me if I've got this wrong. £500 million is the figure that would always be in place when the contract to produce Britain's passports is put out to tender, as it is every 5 years. This is a deeply unfashionable thing to do for journalists in Britain at the moment, but I'm going to share with you what I consider to be facts. And even more unfashionably, I'm going to invite you to correct me if I get anything wrong, and I will give you complete freedom to do so. But there is every 5 years, there is a contract put out to tender for companies seeking to redesign and produce, if you will, British passports. There's not a lot of people that can bid for it. You and me can't do it with our Letraset and our photocopier, because you need to be something called a secure printing company. And there aren't many of them. The one that usually gets the nod is a company called De La Rue. Don't worry, sounds foreign. I'm assured it's British. So there's a company called De La Rue, nothing to do with Danny, as far as I know, that is ordinarily at the front of the queue for this contract. And the 500 million quid figure is par for the course. So whoever gets the latest contract to redesign and produce passports from 2020 onwards will be paid about 500 million quid. Now, given that the average passport costs about 20 quid to produce, and there's about 25 million of them that will be issued over the course of those 5 years, you can see where the 500 million quid figure comes from. It's quite lucrative business, because if memory serves, it costs you not far shy of 100 quid to buy a new passport. So you have to ask yourself now, why are the tabloids going with the £500 million figure as a call to arms on this almost? And I've read a very good blog. I hadn't come across it before. And this is the only bit of the blog that I've read. So if you go in a little deeper and find all manner of horrors and eccentricities, I apologise. But I've only read this. It's a blog called Banditry. And it explains by a bloke called John Band. I don't know anything about him at all, but my listeners send me a lot of stuff. And therefore, I'm lucky to have an astonishing kind of multiplicity of perspectives on issues. But he contends, I think very powerfully, that this 500 million quid figure has been put out there deliberately. The Sun and the Express may be sewage, he writes, but they most certainly know their audience. This implies that they've discovered grumpy old Brexit so-and-sos would actually be happy if this were the ludicrous waste of money that they're spinning it as. Why is it spinning? Why is it what he describes as a contrived piece of fake newsy shoehorning? Well, I've told you, 2 reasons. £500 million pounds would be the going rate for this contract, whether we were leaving the European Union or not. And secondly, perhaps even more importantly, the money comes out of fees paid for passports. It's got nothing to do with the taxpayer. All of the money, every single penny of it, is funded by user fees. So it's like the mother of all non-stories, this. But this blogger suggests that the kind of chomping lunacy that's taking hold of some parts of the country at the moment is such that by telling them it's going to cost 500 million quid, they think they've got something to cheer. We've got our country back, 500 million quid. It would have been the same if we stayed in the European Union, and every single penny of that sum comes from people writing cheques or using cards to pay for their new passport. It's utterly irrelevant. But it's a way to kind of get the story out there, I suppose. Absolutely incredible. But there we are. Some people care about the colour of their passport. Now, I've done a little bit of research on this. I can tell you that Croatia currently has a navy blue passport and is a member of the European Union. But they arrived relatively recently in the fold and so possibly can't be used as an emblem of a broader truth. The best information I've been able to find says that there was absolutely nothing in law to stop us from having a lime green, a navy blue, or a bright purple passport yesterday. It was simply a convention agreed upon by the senior members of the European Union in order to foster the second word of that phrase, union. And it means that for customs officers, it helps. You can see without checking too closely whether someone's meant to be in that queue or that queue. If you've got the EU passport recognisable by colour and you're standing in the non-EU queue, he doesn't need to come and have a look at it and flick through it to say, no, you've got to be in that queue. It's easy. It makes it easier to get in and out of countries, which, in my sweet old-fashioned way, I consider to be the prime priority, the prime purpose of a passport, to make it easier for me to get in and out of countries. Changing the passport and leaving the European Union will make it harder, but it will be a different colour. So, again, I promise that I don't want to have an argument about this. I just want to understand. And when I say I'm not going to have an argument, I am going to question the reasons you give me for considering this to be in any way interesting, important or relevant. But I'll do it in a very nice way. Who cares what colour their passport is? Call me now. 0345 6060 973. Who cares, genuinely cares, what colour their passport is? Because this apparently is a very, very good example of how people like me just don't get it when it comes to identity. I need your help in understanding why my sense of self-worth, my sense of pride in my country, my confidence in my culture, my delight in being British is going to increase when the colour of my passport changes. And that Andrew Rosendale fella, who a previous caller referred to, spoke about feeling humiliated every time he had to pull out his pink one. That's his phrase. I think he calls it pink, presumably because that's seen as effeminate, and being feminine is in some way something to be. I don't know. I'd have to ask him. But if you have genuinely felt in any way diminished, or to use his word, humiliated by the colour of your passport, I would love to talk to you. I really would. 0345 6060 973. Don't be shy. Seriously. If you care about the colour of your passport, if you've been humiliated by having to use a burgundy one, and you care more about the colour than you do about the actual effectiveness of the document in getting you in and out of countries with the minimum of fuss, I kind of want a little bit of whatever you're on. I really do. The colour of the passport as an indicator of pride, patriotism or identity. Who actually cares? And who's actually bothered to find out any facts about this? And who can actually conclusively explain why we have to leave the European Union in order to change the colour of our passport to the colour that Croatia currently has, even though it's still a member of the European Union? Oh, happy days. Phone lines are open, by the way. I've been chocker since 10, but you'll get through on this one. Apologies if you were waiting to talk about the Gibraltarian issue in the last hour. I've got something to add to that, actually, but I just need to make sure it's not bonkers. Mark's in Reigate. Mark, what would you like to say?
Okay, James, if people bothered to look at the facts, we wouldn't have Brexit, would we?
I can't possibly comment on that, Mark.
The colour of the passports, to you, to me, is not relevant. To a lot of people, it is. I take it further. I cringe when I see people flying flags of their home nation in their houses, in their yards. It doesn't matter whether I'm in Australia or I'm over here. It just says something to me about we're not secure. We're not in who we are.
Insecurity masquerading as security, in other words.
And sadly in Australia, about 12 years ago, we had some race riots in Sydney, and a lot of with the Lebanese and the so-called Australians, and a lot of these Australians draped themselves in the flags as they were beating up other people. So it's not.
And we see that here with the what are they called? The little fella's outfit, the English Defence League.
Yeah.
They co-opt the flag of St George, and historically, of course, the National Front did as well. Yeah, you're right, isn't it? It's as if waving a flag will make you feel like a bigger man somehow.
Yeah, if I had my way, we'd get rid of flags. I think they're past. Excuse me, past their use-by date.
I think you need them. You need them if you're sailing around the place. And I quite like the Union flag. I like the history that's involved in it. Unfortunately, we're about to undo a lot of that history if we're not careful. So the colour of a passport, I don't even see it on the same page as a flag. But you're describing as sort of something that they can metaphorically salute. A blue passport as opposed to a purple passport.
I'm sitting here trying to remember what colour my Australian passport is. You know what? I can't remember.
And that, my friends, is the sound of a 21st century citizen, isn't it?
It is indeed.
You're out of time, mate. You need 24 minutes after 12. Nimesh is in Kingsbury. Nimesh, what would you like to do?
Hi, how you doing? Great show, great topic, very interesting, because I'd say, yes, in some aspects it has no relevance, the colour, but in other aspects, for those demographic groups, for example, the younger folks, they've known no other colour, so therefore they can never compare what passport colour they should have or not. But in reality, if we're going to get kicked out of your European Union, well, not kicked out, we're going to negotiate our way out.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to negotiate our way out, and then they say you can't use the EU channels when you're going for immigration, blah, blah, blah. I think most of the country will be picked away. Apologies if that was the wrong word. Won't be happy if they won't be happy if they have to keep the burgundy passport, not burgundy, the purple.
Let's not. I've promised I'm not going to have any arguments this hour. I haven't got the first idea what you're talking about.
Okay, all right, demographics.
Yeah.
People of your age group and my age group.
You sound younger than me.
I held the blue passport, the old blue passport.
Did you feel different? Did you feel different when you had a blue one in any way?
Yeah.
How?
In every way.
How?
Because it's different. It's like a physical entity. You're holding something. It's a document. When you have your...
No, but it doesn't change. It doesn't stop being a document if it changes colour. I want to know how you have felt differently when it changed colour.
Well, I feel like everybody else, assimilated. It's like being part of a federal club. We're no longer are part of a federal club, or won't be in 2 years' time, and they'll treat us differently.
So if the passport stayed the same colour, you wouldn't feel that we'd left the European Union?
If the passport stays the same colour, it wouldn't matter. In the sense that...
Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought you were saying the opposite.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not part of them, so why should I pretend to be like them?
Right.
You look at every country in the world, why do they have their own colours, passports?
Well, they don't. I mean, there'd have to be 500 different colours, mate.
You look at India, you look at Pakistan, you look at USA,
yeah.
You look at... Right?
Well, you can just keep listing countries, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there are more countries than there are colours, all right?
We're going to become a country, though. We're going to be our own independent state, not part of the federal European state.
There is no federal European state.
Well, you know what I mean. We're not going to be part of the European...
Mate, I don't think even you know what you mean.
Actually, I do. What I'm trying to say to you is that United States of Europe or European Union, we won't be part of them. We won't be part of that great big family.
But if we've got a burgundy passport, we still will be.
In the 80s, when...
What colour was the old passport, black or blue?
Navy blue.
Are you sure?
Due to the printing, yes, due to the printing process issues, I think it changed in the 60s or 50s, somewhere along the line.
And did your sense of identity change then as well?
Oh, abundantly.
Do you think people's did when it changed, when the ink fades from black and it begins to look like midnight blue?
Back in them days, I don't think many people owned a passport.
I think it's black.
The mass tourism only started with Freddie Laker in the 80s.
You've thrown an awful lot at me, Nimesh. I have to apologise for not managing to catch any of it. Adrian's in Sunderland. Adrian, passport colours. It defines who you are and your place in the world.
Absolutely not, James.
Oh, come on. Someone play with me.
Such a ridiculous, vacuous argument that's just a complete waste of everyone's time. Like, I mean, take, for example, the fact that it's not even the European Union that mandates to us that our passports have to be a particular colour anyway.
No.
I've actually got a website open in front of me now, looking at all of the different passports of the European Union. They're quite a range of different hues, actually. From a vivid red, right the way through down to a dark maroon colour.
Where's the vivid red?
Universal colour. Vivid red would be Latvia.
Nice, yeah.
Denmark's is also pretty red.
Is it?
Spain is like a sort of vivid magenta pink.
What? They've got pink passports? Well, in that case, I'm changing my opinion. I'm with Michael Howard.
Yeah, France is like a dark maroon colour. Slovenia is a nice dark maroon. So, I mean, it's a pointless argument anyway. But I do think that this whole discussion around the colour of our passport, it's of no consequence whatsoever. We've got a clock ticking now on these negotiations, and we've got 2 years to hash together whatever deal we can. I don't care one iota what colour my passport is. It's of absolutely no relevance to me whatsoever. You know, whether it's blue, green, black, whatever colour it ends up being, it honestly doesn't matter on any level.
What sort? You're like Guy Fawkes of the 21st century. What sort of a treasonous terrorist are you, Adrian?
Well, I just think it's just such an empty way of which, you know, to assert your identity by.
Yeah, but you know what it is.
Differently.
Do you know what I've just realised?
Coloured passport.
No, of course not. But I say I've just realised because I'm nicking it off the last tweet to come into the studio. Soothing. I always get a bit worried, Adrian, when someone's got a Twitter name that's a phrase I don't understand, and I think it might be something sexual that I just haven't caught up with yet. So I won't read that out in its entirety. But here is the tweet. People don't really care about it, but the media Brexit agitators have thrown it out as a win. It might be the only one, and that's it, isn't it?
Well, I do think that the media machine generally is throwing these things out into the fire pit and is throwing them at the public who's trying to get them talking about certain issues. Gibraltar being one thing which has been handled so irresponsibly by the media and by the public in general. The fact that we've raised the temperature.
Yeah, but it's deliberate, isn't it?
Significantly over that. And then this passport issue. It's like, well, let's talk about industries that are dependent on our position in the single market. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's not waste our time on pointless discussion.
I'm late for the news, but as I think you are rhetorically affirming, the reason why we're not, or indeed the reason why we're talking about passports in Gibraltar is because they don't want us to talk about the other stuff you've just mentioned. It's 12:30. You are listening to James O'Brien on LBC. I just want to run something by you that's been sort of bubbling away in the back of my mind for a while now. And it's born of the discomfort that I feel at the way that so much political debate, particularly post-Brexit, has turned into, I know you are, but what am I? So, for example, on Friday's show, when we spent a lot of time talking to people whose lives have been thrown into a degree of turmoil by the uncertainty surrounding the terms of departure, the I know you are, but what am I school of thought responds to that by saying, stop scaremongering. So you speak to people who are scared and ask them what they're scared about, and you somehow are scaremongering. Or you call out racism and you're divisive. Donald Trump is the master of this. Donald Trump, effectively, if Donald Trump ever accuses anybody of anything, it's because he's done it himself. Two things to notice about Donald Trump. The first is, if he ever accuses anybody of anything bad, it's because he's done it himself. So even with the context of Russia, he'll probably try and resurrect the Hillary Clinton emails soon in just an attempt to distract. This is all linked. And the second thing about him is if he says not a lot of people knew that means he's just found out. So when he said the other day, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, not a lot of people knew that, what he really meant was I, the President of the United States of America, had no idea that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. There's just two little observations. And what I've been uncomfortable with is this, I know you are, but what am I? Segueing into anybody who is Leave voter is stupid. Anybody who voted for Donald Trump is stupid. And that is the accusation that is allegedly being made by people on the other side of the argument. So if you found the prospect of Donald Trump becoming president pretty chilling, stroke absurd, then you think that all the people that voted for him are stupid. If you found the membership of the European Union to be far from perfect, but probably better than the alternatives, you think that everybody who voted to leave is stupid. Except we don't, actually. And then the words duped. Stop saying that they were duped. I just have this little thought that it's the other way around. And that in order to think that you can distract attention away from really big and important problems by banging on about the colour of passports and confecting a controversy surrounding Gibraltar, and you can believe that those relatively red herrings will distract people from the things they should be worrying about, then you must think they're really stupid. So this little thought I've got that's growing is actually the people who really hold a significant swathe of the electorate in complete contempt are the people who know they can feed them lies and be believed. The people who keep saying, that's a lie, believe that if they keep pointing out these inalienable facts, people are bright enough to realise and then change. But the people who think they're really stupid are the ones who will double down on it. So 350 million quid on the side of a bus is not the peak of that process, it's the beginning. So now, how are we going to keep them quiet? How are we going to stop worrying about the fact that their shopping's going up in cost and they might lose their job? Easy. We'll tell them that we need to go to war with Spain if Spain isn't careful. We'll tell them that, look, they haven't got a lot to celebrate at the moment. I think this word sovereignty is beginning to lose some of its shine. I mean, there are still a few people out there who think it means something, but most people are kind of waking up to the fact that that Brexit white paper didn't help, that said British Parliament had always been sovereign. But there's still a few people out there that the rest, they need something to celebrate. All right, give them the passports. Nah, they won't be that daft. They're not going to really think that the colour of a passport is some form of victory in life on the world. Mate, I think you'll find they are. Remember the bus. So it's obviously a little bit self-serving, this analysis, but it seems increasingly clear to me that people who think that you will change someone's mind by presenting them with evidence and fact hold that person in a much higher regard than someone who thinks you can keep them in the dark by bombarding them with lies and meaningless propaganda. So you tell me who holds the intelligence of any person in higher regard. The one who thinks that by being provided with evidence and insight and facts and statistics, they will arrive at a different conclusion from the one they've been led to by lies and obfuscations and exaggerations and bigotries. Or the person who thinks that you can keep piling the obfuscations and bigotries, the lies and exaggerations on them, and then throw in utterly meaningless red herrings like black passports and Gibraltar, war with Spain, and they'll still suck it up. Now, I don't know who's right, the person who thinks that evidence and facts and truth and enlightenment will eventually win, or the person who thinks that the rump of an electorate is so bovine that you can lie to them literally till you run out of breath and they're never going to see the light. I don't know who's right. But can we stop suggesting that the people who think that facts and evidence and enlightenment and insight will win the mind of a person hold that person in somehow a lower regard than the one who thinks that they can be bought off with nonsense about passports and a war with Spain? Yeah, that works. That works. Work in progress, that one. Get prepared to hear it repeated in various different guises at least 1,000 times in the next 6 weeks. 12:40 is the time. Back to the passports. Marty's in Blackpool, black passport, Marty.
Yes. I think the arguments about you've made about being in queues for passports and all that. I've travelled the world, and it's never been a problem, whatever passport you got. But you know.
Well, you've seen the queue that says EU nationals this way, everybody else that way, though.
Yeah, but the queue to the EU are just as big. In fact, you know, even bigger. You know, when I've come back to Manchester, the queues to go in the EU passport lane has been bigger than the rest. You know, and it's what the passport represents. It represents the European Union. We're not going to be in the European Union anymore. So why would we need the same colour passport?
Well, we wouldn't need the same colour passport any more than we needed the same colour passport when we were in the European Union. There's a myriad of different colours in it. I'm looking more for the personal relationship between passport colour and identity, because this is what I'm being told I miss. So how does your identity shift when the colour of your passport changes?
Well, yes, it does, because it's saying that we don't support. We've decided to leave the European Union and all the institutes, and we're having our own identity, and I think that's quite important.
So, the colour, I mean, everything you've said is true. We voted to leave the European Union, but it wouldn't feel real if your passport didn't change colour.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
apart from that, you know, you got about queues going into... you know, the queues would shorten, surely, if you came back into this country, because there'd be UK passports and the rest would be rest of the world and EU.
Yes, you might get back into the country a little more quickly, although, of course, security, which is the other watchword of our age, would suggest that might be a little foolish. I mean, you know, the fellow who killed the policeman outside the House of Commons had a British passport, didn't he? So we need to check everybody coming in. But the point really I was thinking about was how the passport works elsewhere in the world. So at the moment, we're not in Schengen, but we can move around Europe with a degree of ease that an American or an Iranian can only dream of, and we're going to be more like them afterwards. And what I can't quite get is the colour. I mean,
well, it doesn't matter what colour it is, because...
Hang on a minute, you just said it affected your personal identity.
No, but just wait a minute.
Of course.
Every passport I've had in the last 30 years changes its design, it changes its security features, and so it's going to change anyway. And of course, technology takes over, you know, and changes. So it's inevitable that it's going to change design.
Did your sense of identity change last time the design changed? Actually, when it moved from black to burgundy, did you feel less British?
No, I wouldn't say that, but it was a different age. We were in the, it was a common market, wasn't it, when we, you know, now we're in the EU.
And will you feel more British when it goes back to being black? Or indeed, they might pick another colour, they might go with something a little bit out there, like yellow.
Oh, yeah.
But will you feel more British if you had a yellow passport, or a black one?
It could be pink with yellow spots on, as far as I'm concerned.
And that would make you feel more British, would it?
Yes, it'd give me pride.
Pink with yellow spots?
Yeah, whatever. But, I mean, you know, it's... I think we've lost our identity in the European Union. And I think we've...
How have we lost that? Because, I mean, this is the point I generally get quite baffled. What identity do we get back now, then? Because this might be what I need. I might need a lesson in the benefits of identity improvement. How are you... I mean, what do you even mean when you use the word identity?
Well, who we are, our culture. You know, I think we've lost our culture.
Which bits do you think we've lost? What do you think we're going to get back?
A bit of pride back in our society.
I'm really proud already. I don't know if I want to be any prouder.
Yeah, but...
why are you not proud of this country?
Well, if you look at the other devolved nations in this country, like Scotland and Wales, they're really proud of the flag. It seems to be shunned upon, the English flag in this country.
We're talking about passports.
Yeah, but it's all entwined. It's
so what do you mean when you use the word identity? What do you mean?
It's, have it
I
been...
honestly haven't got a clue, Marty. I'm not being glib. The sense that you're going to feel more British or more English when the colour of your passport changes is just eluding me, really. Is it just because I'm more patriotic than you are? I'm prouder of my country now than you are?
I think it's been drained from us since we've been in the EU.
Right. Why, I mean, how come I've managed to hang on to so much pride in my culture and my country? What, do you think that you should read more? I don't want to sound rude, but I read a lot. I read a lot of British writers, and I don't have the skills to read other writers in their original languages. But, I mean, as a student of Shakespeare, I find it astonishing that you think our culture has been in any way... What do you think we've lost? Just give me one little example of something that we've lost in terms of culture or national pride.
Well, I think, we've lost, our industries.
That's nothing to do with culture and pride, and we're going to lose a lot more as a result of leaving the European Union.
As I said, you're looking at it very narrow-mindedly.
Me?
I'm not. Yes, I think you're very narrow-minded in your views.
Okay. So, I mean, just to broaden my mind, something cultural, not industrial, but something cultural that we've lost, that we're going to get back now by changing the colour of our passports.
Well, where people used to go to, festivals and things like that.
What sort of festivals?
Well, all sorts,
Go on. And the EU banned them, did they?
And community and...
I'm going to the East Anglian Country and Game Fair in a couple of weeks, down in Norfolk. Is that... was that... Because I went last year as well. What sort of festivals have been banned or stopped by European Union membership that we can get back now?
It's not that it's been stopped. We've just forgotten about it.
Well, I'm going to it, mate.
Who we are, what we do.
They've got the posters up all over Norfolk. Well, I need something else, something cultural that's gone, because unless you can name a festival that just went because our passports were purple.
You see, you're missing the wider view.
I'm so sorry, and I'm so glad you're here to help me see it. Just something cultural in terms of, literature, art, music, dance, mime, macrame, something cultural that we've lost as a direct result of being in the European Union. Give me your best shot, mate.
You're missing the point.
Well, one of us is, Marty, but I'm just repeating back to you what you said to me about losing our culture. You feel we've lost our culture, so give me just something, anything at all. I'm late for the travel. Something we've lost, apart from, festivals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we don't celebrate our Britishness enough.
Right. I've got to go to the travel. Okay. And being in the European Union stopped us from celebrating our Britishness. How?
It's not stopped us. We've just forgotten how to. You
right.
missed the point.
Okay. It's 10-1. I've very naughty. This is on Twitter. I've googled the festival and I can't find evidence of it anywhere. Maybe that was one of the ones that the EU banned. Well played, Tom de Freites. John's in Carshalton. The colour of the passport as something that impacts upon your sense of self, John. Do you get it?
Not anymore. I've actually got one of my old passports in my sticky hand, and it's dark blue. Yeah?
Yeah.
And
have you got a burgundy one with you as well?
Yeah, in the same drawer that I found this.
Can you go and get it? Are you on hands-free? Have you got a phone or are you on a wire?
Hold on, no, I'm hands-free.
Go and get the other one.
If one of the others is still here. Yes. Yeah, I've got one of the other ones.
Okay, now put down the burgundy one and hold the navy blue one.
Yep.
Okay, how are you feeling?
Oh, yeah, I've changed completely.
Well, how would you describe yourself? I mean, in kind of, words that are suitable for a family programme shortly before lunch.
At the time it changed from dark blue to burgundy,
yeah.
I thought, what a shame. My son actually because when I took him over to Holland for a walk I do over there, he got one of the burgundy ones and bought a dark blue cover to go with it.
God, what a whack.
That's because he'd seen my dark blue ones with loads of Visa in. And what he used to do, he doesn't now, he's in the Navy now and it's all changed. He used to get them to stamp his passport when we went into Holland.
Oh, that's nice.
Just to try and get some stamps, because I got visas and God knows what.
Oh, lovely.
One.
I like that.
But, yeah, and I thought at the time when it changed from dark blue to burgundy, oh, that's a shame. It doesn't look the same. It's a lot smaller. But over the years, who gives a damn? I go, yeah. I can remember when I first took a load of kids to this walk. I say kids, they were teenagers. We collected all of our passports. We were on a minibus. We'd gone over on the ferry. We drove through Belgium. And I got them genuinely to give me all their passports as we approached the Dutch border.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I am short of time. Give me the punchline.
We went through at 65 miles an hour.
Well, those days are probably behind us. Very, very briefly, I just want you to try something, okay? Hold the burgundy passport, put down the navy blue passport.
Yeah?
Do you want to go to war with Spain?
Yeah, what a bloody nonsense.
You're not playing the game, John, but you are making a sparkling contribution to the programme nonetheless. 12:56, a couple of minutes less. Ross is in Slade Green. Blue, black or pink or purple. Does it change your sense of who you are, Ross?
Of course it doesn't. It's stupid to think it does. Anyone that thinks they do, need their head sorted out.
Well, it was on the front of the Sunday Express yesterday. We're supposed to be celebrating.
Well, what are you going to celebrate? Oh, they've changed its colour.
To be fair, Ross, you're supposed to be telling me what we're going to be celebrating. I'm the one doing the voice of sceptical cynicism. You're supposed to ring up with reasons to be cheerful.
Well, there isn't many, is there?
Well, no.
Sorry, no, mate.
Oh, is that it?
Oh, pretty much.
What else have you got? What?
Well, I was speaking to your person before.
Yeah,
and,
Chris.
As a person that voted out,
yeah,
I listened to some of the people that call your show. I kind of regret it.
Yeah. How do you think I feel?
There's too many people before telling us what we was going to get.
Yes.
And it's a lot of excuses now, isn't it?
And if I was one of those people that had encouraged you to punch yourself in the face, which is a, loose description of what you've just said you're feeling now in the terms of stupid, guess what I'd be talking about on the programme?
Well, trying to invade Spain or something, wasn't it?
Mind how you go, mate, won't you?
All right, cheers, mate.
Better late than never. Well, actually, it's not better late. In many ways, it's worse late than never, because at least with a mind like Ross's that's capable of change and responding to evidence and facts, you realise the shortage of evidence and facts that was so shameful in the run-up. But at least he's got the wit and the wisdom to acknowledge a shift. That's it from me for another day.